Hi everyone. Welcome to Literary Adda's third episode of Adda with an Author. We're so glad that you all could find some time to join us today as we sit down with the author of Lallan Sweets and Once Upon a Curfew. Both are published by Penguin India. And okay, so before we start our discussion with Srishti, let us briefly introduce Literary Adda to everyone. In short, it's a book club. It's an online close-knit community of readers and writers, published, yet to be published, writing only for themselves, all kinds, who love to read books and dive deep into the many layers of the text to understand a writer's motivations and process and whatnot. So when we dissect a story, we also try to learn how to construct a story ourselves. We write together, we on individual projects and sometimes on group projects which are just plain old fun. We read each other's works, we help each other in any way possible. But today we are gathered here to have an Adda with the author of the hour, Srishti, whose book Lallan Sweets was chosen as the book club read for the month of October in Literary Adda. And if I'm not wrong, this is also a recent bestseller on Amazon, right? So congratulations on that.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks. That's really nice. Thanks for choosing the book as your pick of the month. I feel really honored that a bunch of people who write got together to read this book, and the
Absolutely.
pleasure is all mine to be here.
So welcome, Shrishti, and to you have taken some time out from your busy schedule to chat with us today. And okay, so tell us a bit about yourself that we don't already know, and of course your book Lallan Sweets.
I mean, I don't know what you know, but I will just tell you that I live in in Germany, and I'm doing a PhD in literature here. And this is like this town, which is not like Kolkata at all. Like it's a very small town, and it's got just like 90,000 people who live here, and it's like it looks like a fairy tale. It's like this very like Disney town. It's very pretty. It's so pretty, it hurts your eyes to like look at it, and nothing bad ever happens here at all. And there's this girl who moved here from Kolkata, I think 2 months ago or so. She wanted to do her PhD in jazz or something, and she had the same supervisor as me. So he gave her my contact. Her name was Debrani. And she was like, yeah, I'm so excited to be there. And, I can't wait and this and that. And I told her, look, it's not like what you know. It's not like this, uh, community that you might have back in your hometown. It's very different here. And now she's been here and now she's like, "Ye kya hai? It doesn't like, why don't people come out and everything's so perfect here?" And she's just like quite in a culture shock. So yeah, this is a very like small place, but of course, really nice to live, very easy to live. But I really miss being back home, being in Delhi, and just this craziness that is in India. And I think this is what inspires me to write like this, things on the street and how people are. And I think Lallan Sweets yeah, it is set in a small town, but I've never lived in a small town until I moved here. And yeah, this is maybe just a fun fact for you all.
I mean, the way you described it, we are expecting another new story to drop. So
From a
excited.
small town. Yeah,
We are expecting it. We are waiting for it, Srishti.
I'm making my notes.
Yes, please.
I was about to
So
ask,
nice
like, how
to.
does it, sorry, you were saying something.
Yeah, no. Go ahead, go ahead. Please.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, like, the way you described the town, it seemed so picturesque, and I was about to ask, like, does it inspire you to write? And do you feel like, okay, this is the environment where I can, think and think my
Yeah.
thoughts loud and write?
I would say actually not. Like I would say that I need like this kind of things to not work to feel inspired to write. Because like when everything is fine, you don't really find something to write about because like there's no conflict, let's say. And
Oh,
I would say that I need to, be disturbed on the streets of Delhi to feel like, okay, now I need to like write it out to process it or like just like feel, oh, I met this crazy man and he said this and that and blah, blah, blah. So I would say it doesn't inspire me in itself to write, but it gives me the space to kind of like collect all my experiences or like just like I think if you want to write about something or I need a bit of like distance from it. So it gives me that space and distance to kind of write and think about what has been and who I am now and where I am now and so on. So this contrast is there. So when I'm there, I'm getting a lot of input, and when I'm here, I'm producing output, let's say, because I have the space for it and I have no more distractions to come in the way.
yeah.
And here I live alone, and I don't really have like my family here. So, I just kind of have my own space to work on my stuff. So in that way, it's a very different life from what I led back in India.
Yeah. Okay, so, getting back to your writing process, when did you start writing? And then when did you, start thinking seriously about writing that you want to publish a book? So how was that like?
I would say that ever since I was a kid, I wanted to write a lot because, if you read a lot of books, I think most people want to write from that point on. When they read books, they think, oh, I want to write something like that. So I always kind of wanted to write, like since I was a little girl. So I can't really pinpoint to one moment. It was just in there for me all this time. But I would say that when I was done with my bachelor's, or in my third year already, I was at LSR and I used to do English. And so I read a lot of books and I had like really amazing teachers who, taught us in a way that made me learn to love literature. And I thought like I'm a writer who never writes. So, I have to do something, like I have to change that. So then when I was done, I took a few months off and I really said, I'm going to write. So I had this idea and I was like, I'm not going to do anything else. I really will every day just sit down and do that. And this was my first book, which I actually wrote by hand. And it was all like, 200 pages long, but just like done by hand. So this really gave me like, once I got done with that manuscript, it gave me the confidence to say, okay, I've done it once, I can do it again. Like this was a book which was quite stupid. Like now that I look back at it, it was not good, but it's not meant to be good since it's your first kind of full try. And but I was so sure at that time, I can do something with it. So I sent it to all the editors, publishers, everyone, and it was like, no, no, no. And now I can see why. But because I could like get through it, and when I hadn't written a book, I used to think, how in the world do people write full books? Like it must be some sort of magic, right? Like you can't write a book with like plot and like twists and like so many things. It's so hard. So once I could do it one time, I knew that I can do it again. And then I did my master's in Edinburgh in writing. And then this was this 1 year where all I had to do was just that. And since then, I was in the habit. Like I didn't have to, think that much. It was a part of my life since that time. So actually, since then, I've always been working on a book. I've never kind of stopped since that time.
That's really nice to hear that you always write every day, always working on a book,
I
always have
don't write
something.
every day, but I want to
Okay.
write every day.
Like the regularity doesn't
Um,
matter with every day. It has to be like always working on something. Like, yeah.
I think the fact that you said, I'm just going to cut in because I was not supposed to speak right now, but it was so inspirational to hear that you just took that, that energy and wrote it because you had to tell a story. That is what drives us, and this is why we want people like you to come and tell us so that we remember. Because for us, what you did, it's still magic, right? We are still in the process, and we're like, oh my God, this is Gandalf. She did it. Now, please come and show us the firecrackers. So, yeah, that is what it feels like. Having said that, I have a request. Can we just have the videos and the audios off in the audience for now? We will get to you later. Thank you very much. Continue, Pratyu.
Okay. Okay, so the next question is like you said that you've always known that you wanted to write and it has always been a part of your life. So how was your support system was like? Did you have friends who were also writers or family members who knew that you wanted to write and wholeheartedly supported you?
hmm I think that's a great question because, like, I haven't heard it being asked a lot, but I think this really plays a big role for anyone in anyone's life when they set out to do something which is, let's say, unconventional or like, like you always like maybe your parents tell you, okay, you have to grow up, you have to be a doctor, you have to be a doctor, you have to be this or that. They will never tell you that you have to be a writer or because, and this is something which is like, it comes from your own self, right? Like it can't come
Yes.
from someone else because you want to do it. No one tells you, hey, that will be a great life, try to do that. So, I wouldn't say that I was in an environment where everyone wrote or there were a lot of books or something, so I got inspired by that. It was so when I was young, my dad got me books and I read books, and they themselves don't read that much, but I read a lot. So I think like this will to write just came from the books that I read.
Right.
But I have to say that I mean I don't know where I read this, but I do agree with it that I feel that in life you kind of need one person to be irrationally crazy about your dream. Like really, really be as mad about it as you are. And for me, that person has been my dad. Like he never let me think that I couldn't be something that that it's too hard or I can't do it. Like even since I was like 5 or 6 or 7, he always said like you can do anything that you want to do, and if this is what you want, then you can do it. Do anything, just do it well. Just give it like your everything. So he even till date, just this morning, he asked me, "Oh, so you have that talk, right?" And he's just like he's always on it. He knows my life, even though I live like so far now, and he works a lot, so he has his own things, but he never like kind of let that part go where he needs to encourage me or like just make me think that I can do it. So for me it has been him. If it was not him, I would have been like a techie, and maybe that would have been better in terms of like a stable life. But yeah, it has been him, and I really think you need that one person in your life at the least, because it takes a whole lot. It really takes a lot of like support to keep on going,
Definitely.
especially when the results are not like something you can see the next day or just the next year. It takes many, many years to build up to something. So yeah, that has been him.
Yeah, 100% I agree. Like, even if, most of the time as writers, we will be questioning ourselves, right? Like, what are we doing
Yeah,
all the time? And that
yeah,
one person, whoever is supporting us, that voice will come up and save save the day.
yeah,
So yeah,
definitely.
definitely that one person is very, very much important.
hmm
And like you can say that one of the reasons why we like have this community where it is not just one person and more than, one person can be your support
Yeah,
system. Yeah.
yeah. No, that's much needed.
Yes. So now getting into in Lallan Sweets about the book, would you mind sharing with us like how is your ideation process? We have been in the group, we have been using prompts, and we also go back to our journal entries for ideas. But we would love to know like how you come up with ideas for novels.
I think it's quite hard to place exactly. Like sometimes it works that, you start with an idea and you build up on that and then you build a whole book from that. Some other times, you're looking for inspiration. So you're trying to look for certain premises which might work for your book and so on. I I knew that I wanted to do something with a secret ingredient, in food somehow.
Right.
And I was just very kind of like, I think I have talked about this elsewhere too, that even though I've not lived in a small town, when you're small and if you when you're young and if you live in Delhi, your world is very small because like you're not allowed to like go out on your own and you're too young for like such a big place, right? So we used to live in this apartments which was like kind of gated and it had this huge park and we basically spent all our time outside. We didn't have smartphones back then and it was like still the good old times where you just go out to play with your friends, right? So I just had this like kind of four walls which was my world back then. So it was my small town and somehow this was a great time of my life. So when I wanted to set this book somewhere, this came up very naturally to me that I will make up this small town. But in my mind, it was like my childhood. And I just kind of fused these two things. So, on the one hand, I wrote what I knew, which was like this life of mine. And on the other hand, I did have like a premise in some way, and I wanted to do something with it. I think at some point I thought that I wanted to do something around like these two people who follow the cricket team of India as they tour. And somehow this one stuck more with me. And yeah, I kind of, still chose that travel mode and
Right.
with the secret ingredient and this small town setting. So yeah,
Right.
I would say like when I ideate, I take these two, three things that I want to work with and put them together. But I think each time it can be different. Like for you, it could be
Yeah.
something else. Like you start literally from the idea and that doesn't really change as you work on the book. But in this book, for me, it was like this.
Okay. Yeah, no, totally. I agree with you because it's not always just one idea that we follow. It's usually a combination of a few ideas that we have. And, as we go on working on it, it also changes, it evolves. So I agree that it has to be, more than one idea, not just one. But
Mhm.
for some, it might work. Just one idea might work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, coming to the characters of this book, would you say that some of them were inspired by real life people? And if not, then how do you like, build your characters?
I think they're always kind of inspired by real life people. Maybe you can't say one to one, like this
Mm-hmm.
person is that or this is that, but they always come kind of from your life or from people you've seen or characters you've watched on screen. And I would say that mine are kind of like a mix of different characters that I have seen, like people that I have seen, and also a little bit of myself, let's say, in each of the protagonists. Not much, but some part of it. And at the same time, some characters just are there in your mind fully formed. Like you wake up and you think like, how did they come here? But they are perfect. Like I have this one character in my first book. His name is Natwar Lal. He's a driver. He's the driver, and his nickname is Natty. And he was just like whenever I wrote anything of him where he said something, it was just, I never had to change it. It just came out like, and I've never met someone like him. So I don't know where it came from. But maybe there are like some kind of manifestations of like your subconscious or like what you want to see in people somehow.
Right.
And I think it was the same for Lalaji somehow. Like he was someone who was just fully formed for me, and he was not someone that I took from real life or like my own grandfather. He is also crazy, my own grandpa, but not in the same way, but also definitely, certainly, like if I were to write him in a book, no one would believe that this can be true. They would think, nahi, nahi, ye to ho hi nahi sakta. What is she thinking?
Oh my God, now we need a book on him. I'm so
Yeah.
invested. I'm
No,
so
it will
invested.
come. It will come.
Hopefully.
Yeah, so I would say often it's a mix, but sometimes it can be just out of nowhere. I'm sure that's not very helpful, but yeah, from
No, no,
your real life,
it helps. Yeah, because like we can't really base a full character completely on someone we know, right? It cannot be 100% true anyway. So I guess yes, it has to be some sort of fictional, some imaginary traits that we want to see in people, and the realities that we already see.
yeah,
So it's always a mix of them both.
yeah.
And that is very interesting when you said, when some characters are like fully formed in your head, they just don't change over the process. It's very interesting. I haven't had a character like that yet, but yeah, let's see.
I would say
Yeah.
for me too, they have been minor characters, so they haven't like, so it's definitely not the main ones because these need so much kind of
Yeah.
depth, or like you spend so much time with them that they do change.
Yes.
So they have been like kind of secondary characters, and I think that makes sense because you
Mm-hmm.
don't know them well enough to think of all the different nuances that they might have. That's why they are fully formed in your head, kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. While we are on character, I really wanted to like barge in and say that I love that highway dhaba wali auntie. I mean, what was that? That was so cool and amazing. I just had to say it. Like the whole purpose of hosting this kind of event is so that I can fangirl with the author. That is my personal agenda. But you allows it sometimes. So yeah. I mean, how did you just think of that and her, trickery like that? Was it a fully formed character as well, or like?
I mean, this I actually heard from someone. Someone told me this story where there was this like kind of crazy bride, or like someone married someone,
Oh
and then
wow!
they said you can't smoke here without me. And I
Oh,
just thought that it was so cool that I had
oh
to
my
kind
god!
of find a way to put that in. So, like, this was a
Oh
line
my
I
god!
definitely heard from someone. I can't think who in the world was that, but I should thank them
Yeah,
and maybe get you two to meet.
that was so cool. I just had to appreciate it personally.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
please
Yeah.
continue, Pratyu.
And there are more such characters, I remember those two sisters she met in Chandigarh, I think, right? She helped one of them in the pageant thing. Even that was so cool, like, reconciliation between two sisters. Like it's a story within a story. So it was really nice.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, these are your classic, like, Punjabi sisters, who are mad at
Yeah,
each
yeah.
other, and then they're like, oh, let's get back. And this was
We see
too,
that in Bengali as well, like it's everywhere.
yeah, yeah, true.
Yeah, so coming to the protagonist, I would first go into the relationships. Like, you know, we've seen that Tara is clear on her ambitions, right? She's very focused on what she wants and all. But when it comes to her relationships, we have seen that she's already in a relationship with Sahil. I think he's the DJ. And then her childhood crush comes back, Niku. And on her journey, she also meets a random person. Like, she has a moment with with him as well. So,
Mhm.
like, it seems like, you know, there is some sort of confusion about relationships in Tara. So I we just wanted to ask, like, was that intentional, or it just, you know, happened with as the story went along?
Mhm. Yeah, kind of. Like, I mean, I think, yeah, she was like with this DJ buddy, and he was, kind of like just a boyfriend for her whom she didn't take as seriously. Like, yeah, she was with him, but because there was no one else, maybe, or maybe just, it was fun for the time. But then, of course, like her long lost love came back, and then at the start, she was a bit too proud to kind of maybe tell him, that she really missed him. But as they spend more and more time and this in this really intense way, and he's with her, then of course the feelings come out, and then she was mad that he left, or she left, but she was mad at him. And yeah, then she met Aman, and yeah, this was just a day.
Yeah.
So yeah, she was confused, which I think is characteristic of
Yeah.
young people. And yeah, nothing more to say on that.
So now, like, coming to her, Tara and her ambitions, you know. So we've seen that she is very focused, and she's clear on what she wants. And
Mhm.
we don't see these kind of, you know, female characters especially a lot in books, like someone who knows what she wants and she will do whatever it takes to get that. And but you have managed to keep her visions intact. You managed to keep her very focused on her goal. So, how did you, or what inspired you to create, you know, such characters, like a character like Tara? Like, she's very, as I'm saying repeatedly, like very focused.
I don't know. I think if you didn't see that many characters, I think you need to read the right books because I feel like I always just read, or not just, but mostly read books where female characters are driving the stories about them. So many now, Sarah J. Maas, lessons in chemistry. They are all like kind of like they are totally driven narratives, people with dreams, or at least some kind of motivation, which makes them do impossible things or kind of like take their life in their own hands. So I've always read books like that. So it was for me a no-brainer to say like, okay, that's how my character will be do, and I feel like that's how I am too. So like this was a part of myself which came in it too. Like I know that I want this, I will just kind of go for that, or like I will do what I want. So I think that was what came for me. And at the same time, these are the people I've met in my life. Like I was at LSR. This is like all the head girls of all the schools in the whole country come there, and they are all like mujhe to ye banna hai, I will be that, I will be this. And they are all like very driven, very like like maybe life doesn't really work out that way once you but you have those dreams. So they
Right.
were all very like, so I was at first I was like, oh no, I'm gonna go to a girls college. That should be a nightmare, right? Like I'm 18, I want to like go to a nice place where there are guys and there are girls and you can have fun. But then I went to this place where everyone was like super ambitious and very like I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. So because I was for 3 years I was just among these kind of people. So for me, it was like natural, like, yeah, they want this, they will do this. So that's how it came to my fiction somehow. Even now, I tell the story of this girl who's my friend's sister. She's like 6, 7 years younger to us. So now she must be like 24. And when she was in fifth class, we were in 11th, she would come and bully my friend, who's her older sister. She would slap her. This young girl would go and slap her older sister, and she would go around telling the whole school, I will be Miss India and I will be a lawyer. And she would just like tell the whole world, and she would just say, first I will be head girl, and then I will be this and that. And then she was the head
Wow.
girl, and now she's a lawyer. And Miss India bach gaya, but still, like
Okay.
she was, trying to follow those dreams of hers. So whenever I see like people like that, I try to, use it, and I feel like I'm
Yeah.
kind of like that too. Yeah,
Yeah, I think you're very fortunate to be surrounded by such people, Not everybody gets a chance to be among such people who are so focused and knows what they want. Sometimes it takes some people to, you know, takes
yeah,
years to finally figure out. Yeah,
definitely, definitely,
yeah,
and yeah, especially for girls, it's very yeah,
yeah,
and that's why I want to have these books where you can see it and
yeah.
you can
They need
kind
to
of
exist. Yeah.
yeah.
That's why I was very like I have seen Tara so focused, so it was a little different for me. And yeah, so let's see. Time to meet more people like Tara.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, getting into the plot of the story, like we've seen that a lot of readers really liked the road trip idea and the road trip quest sort of idea. And so we would want to know what was your plotting process like? Like, did you have an outline already for your book, or do you just follow a vibe and the story comes to you as you go?
No, I didn't really have that strong of a plot line. So I think that I'm ready to start a book when I know 40% of how like the whole book should be. But when you actually start to write, that 40 is actually like 5. You don't know like that much of the book when you start, but you think you know. But as you write, the plot changes, the book kind of evolves, and it takes you where you didn't think that you
Right.
would go. And yeah, at that point, I thought that I knew. Let's say I knew the first 5 chapters, and I knew kind of overall that like they will reach some end and it will be like a contest or so on. But I didn't know how it would work out. So I think in this kind of thing, I worked out like destination by destination somehow.
Right.
And yeah, it was kind of on the go.
Yeah. Yeah, some of us are also like that. Like we have something to start with, and then we kind of figure out what's going on, and it changes. Sometimes it doesn't, it stays intact. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It should
Oh,
change too. It should
yeah,
change because if you're not willing to make it change, then you're trying to accommodate your whole story around that one thing, or you're not being flexible. And then it can be really hard because you try to fit everything
right,
around what you want, but you have to change it to see what benefits the story the most.
right. Okay, for the next section, I will hand over to Choi and she will
Yeah,
continue.
thank you so much. I just want to have a few notes on whatever you both talked about because it was so inspiring to hear about Tara. I personally connected with her. First of all, she seemed like a very, very driven character of a recent Bollywood female-centric movies that is, kind of nice to watch, but also has a purpose behind it. And her whole concept of taking over the business and also starting something of her own, having had that kind of family where, you have to do something on your own. We have that a lot in Bengal. Like you have to make it on your own kind of logic. That was such, it was so different to see on the book, which is not written, not set in somewhere in America or in Europe. It is set in somewhere very villagey kind of place in India, written in English. That was just mind blowing for me. It was entertaining and inspiring at the same time. I mean, I think you said in the beginning that was your first book and you don't think much of it now, but I think that is brilliant. I mean, if I was younger, if I was in school and I had picked this book, this would give me more motivation than all the other books that were available. Because for women, I don't think there is much. There wasn't enough.
Mhm.
So yeah, please don't say that it is not much. It is
No,
amazing, and you're
I
so
didn't mean this book. No, this book
yeah,
I like. Yeah, chill.
yeah.
Don't feel like
Okay,
I wrote for
like
this was like my practice book, which never made it out in the world.
okay,
And this
yeah.
book was a very old book.
So
And then I wrote
okay,
my first book, which came out, which is not this one, which is
okay,
Once Upon a Curfew. And this is my
okay.
second published.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Then we are cool about it. Otherwise, I had a whole speech ready.
No.
But yeah, it was so much fun hearing talk about the characters, and it was a learning curve how you build the characters and the premises of the book.
Right.
Having said that, we are going to go into a more difficult discussion of the whole publishing process of the book because that is what we don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
So how did you approach Penguin? Did you approach Penguin or did they approach you? How did that process go for you?
No, I wish they would just write to me and say, "Hey, Srishti, please write a book to us." I don't think it happens to anyone except celebrities or someone. But no, sure, I wrote to them. But as I said, like I had written before another book, which I wrote to everyone. Like let's say every publishing house in India, even like all the lame ones that back then I was not sure if they were real or not. But I wrote to lots and lots of them. I wrote to all the agents. I wrote to anyone whose email I could find off on the internet and thought that, they could bring my book out. And since the first one didn't work, I was like, yeah, okay. Then I started to work on my next book, which was I was still in my master's, and I did Once Upon a Curfew then. And for this one too, the same drill. I wrote to everyone
Mhm,
that I could. I think, yeah, I didn't get to the point where I like send that mass email to all the people. I would say I got in touch with like the top seven, eight publishers, and
mhm,
I just tried to find them on like their websites, or even
mhm.
at some point I went to the Delhi Book Fair, and then I tried to like
Cool.
meet with them and then just say, hey, can I write you? And they were all kind of nice there, and they said, yeah, sure. Of course it doesn't mean that they will actually get back to you,
Mm,
but yeah, that's what I did. And then I got in touch with my editor back then. Now she's left, who was at Penguin, and she read this one and
mhm,
she kind of liked it. And then she said, fine, we're willing to make you an offer on this. But in my case, it was a pure, like, unsolicited submission. It was really just finding it off, like,
mhm,
different contacts.
mhm,
I had met Millie, who's the publisher of Penguin, like the head of uh, the group, when I did an event, I think in 2018 or something, and she came there as a guest. And then I just asked her, I want to send this. And then she said, cool, just send it to me, and then I will send it
that's
on
cool.
to the editor. And then she did, and then it worked. But I think it also just worked like because my editor at that point, she kind of could, you know, relate with the voice. So she
Mhm,
kind of thought that this is a story that I like. First of all, she liked,
mhm,
and
mhm,
she thought that um, it would be good to put out there. But of course, it's like, at first you need to have that initial trust with someone, that you need someone to trust you with that, and you need that one chance where they think like, yeah, this could work.
That's great to hear. And the way you said that you would talk to them and just figure out your luck if that works, the connection works, that is really inspirational. We haven't thought of that, like to go out in person and talk to publishers like that. I mean, that I'm sure that helps somehow because they remember your face, because
Yeah.
usually sending out
Oh,
emails,
yes,
nobody knows who is doing that. It's easy to get lost. So, yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
that is a lesson we learned.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely. At the same time, I'm sure that they are approached by people often. I've seen it that people go up
Okay.
and ask them, um, and they don't want that. They want, please don't come to us. But still, like, if you want to do something, you just have to try all the ways that you know how to do that and hope for the best. Yeah.
Um, so moving on to the next question, what was the biggest challenge during this process that you faced, and how did you handle it?
Do you mean the writing process?
The publishing process of reaching out to the publishers or getting rejections or not hearing from them. What was the biggest challenge that you faced?
I think the biggest one is like the same for me as for everyone else, is like keeping those spirits up, like thinking that like you will still be chosen somehow, or like you will one day make it. I think that's the hardest part. And like until you've done that, but once you've done that too, then you think like, oh, will I like make it, like will I actually earn money from it, will I? And once you, okay, you do it once, but then you think like, will I stay like this for a long time, like can I make it a long term, like a thing that I can rely on. I think these are all, and challenges just change with the stage that you're on. So like I was thinking some time ago, not now, but like some months ago, when I was like really doing a lot of work and kind of burnt out. And I thought, like, so many times, something has happened, or I've gone and done something that for some years ago, it was my big dream. And now I don't even pause to think about it and think, wow, like that's done now. And I just think of the next thing. Okay, next I have to, and this is like a never ending road, right? Because your dreams always change and stuff. So, um, I would say like just, I think the first challenge is, of course, like thinking that you can do it. So just to keep that up and have that resilience, that is something that changes everything, I would say. Because like I don't know if it's like, I don't want to be like someone who gives gyan, like all these like startup gurus and stuff. That is something I don't like, men giving gyan. But I think a lot of people believe that like you have to fool yourself into thinking that you can do it, and only then you can do it, and you have to be like delusional about it, like just be sure, like don't even think that there is another way, like that you will fail.
Yeah.
And I think what works for me in this way is that to take the pressure off your head of this, is that will I ever make it or not, is just like kind of like my dad says that you should just like try to do your best. Like whatever happens is just, like not in your hands, but don't think about what will be the outcome. Just do what you can, and that's it. So yeah, I just try to think like that. But all like a lot of the days I, do give in to despair and think, what's happening? What is this life?
Yeah, it just makes us feel more relatable to you. Maybe
Yeah,
we can do this too.
yeah.
Thank you for inspiring. Thank you for motivating words right now.
And
They
just
were really a pat on
do
our
all
back.
that.
It's okay. It's gonna be there.
Yeah,
But you're gonna do it anyway.
yeah.
Um, So anything you're working on right now, full-fledged, full concentrated book that we can read very soon? Is there something going on?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, there will
Can
be
you talk
something
about it a
soon.
little bit?
Yeah, I can't talk about it
Oh,
now, but there will be
okay.
something soon, which is super
Oh,
exciting.
cool.
And
Nice.
but of course, I want to let you all know in good time, and but you can
Yeah,
really look forward
yeah,
to reading more
yeah.
of me.
We are looking forward to that and hosting you more often too,
Thank you
hopefully.
so much. That's so nice of you.
So, uh, how at Literary Adda we read from the point of view of the writer. We try to understand what the writer was thinking while they were telling a story. Sometimes we overthink and we overassume, and
Yeah,
sometimes we just we just try.
yeah.
Um, what would you tell as a writer? What would you tell the readers to read like anything? Any point for aspiring authors like us? How should we observe or how should we absorb the information that is available to us that might help? Any advice?
I would say, like, of course, first of all, like, read a lot. That is something that everyone says all the time, but no one does. Also me.
True,
But
true.
try to find as much time to read as you can. And I want to do that too, because really that is the best way to kind of like learn how to write better. I really believe that. So I never
Mm-hmm.
listen to authors who say, "Oh, I don't read, I just write." Like you can't do that. That doesn't work, right? So yeah, read a lot. And of course, like when you're writing, you start to read consciously, as you said, from the viewpoint of a writer. So, if your big kind of dream is to think of how to create a plot twist in your book, then really reread or read consciously a book which has this great plot twist that you really like, and try to see how it has been done. So not just the content of it, but the form of it. Like when was foreshadowing done? How early on could you start to sense it? How lightly was it done? And then, kind of try to see like how and when something was done as opposed to what is written. And I think this can really help, but this is really hard to do, and at the same time it's really like important to kind of learn, because someone can teach you, like a teacher can, you can do a course and you can do this and that, but the best way to is actually like learn from books and at the same time practice it out. So then write a lot, and the more you do it, then maybe the better you will be slowly. You need a lot of practice. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you want to write a story with a plot, like a plot twist, then write three or four of them, and then you know think like, okay, maybe I can do a big one with
Mm-hmm.
like a novel. That is
Mm-hmm.
my kind of 2 cents on it. And I also would like to try to do that. What I do a lot is, for example, my big dream is to write a story or like write a book which is as good and as strong as like Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul.
Cool.
And this,
Really cool.
this is a show that I rewatch obsessively. Like I finish it and then I restart it the next day. And I like really try to see how it's been done. I'm not gonna say like, okay, now I know how to do it, but like this is my
Yeah.
way of like trying to soak it in and kind of see how they have done it. So yeah, rewatch, reread, and then try to
Mm-hmm.
see it analytically.
Mm-hmm. We can see a lot of cinematic point of view in your writing. That was very clear that you were reading what you watch to be able to show what we are reading. That was very nice when I was reading Lallan Sweets. It was almost like watching a movie for a while. So
Yeah,
yeah, that
I
was
mean, I
fantastic.
hope that's a good thing.
Yeah,
but
that is definitely a good
everyone would
thing because
overthink. Yeah, yeah. For
yeah,
me, somehow, like that's how it turned out. That's how I
yeah.
write. But
I
sometimes
mean,
people don't
I
like.
was wondering how you were doing it, but then you talked about Breaking Bad. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really
Mm,
watch with like this eye for kind of like plot
yeah.
or like, yeah, but like I
Yeah.
think I'm able to translate watching some or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
seeing into writing somehow. So maybe.
Yeah. That is really unique. That is very nice. I mean, at least for the Indian market, as far as it goes, it's rare. It has been rare. So for the next question, we have already heard about how your father is the pillar, the cornerstone of your support system, and it has been so nice to hear about it. But we also know that you have been studying in a lot of writing focused, literature focused schools and colleges all over the places in
Yeah.
the world and very unique places as such. So, how has been your experience of community of writers over there, if there is any, and how does that support?
Mhm.
Any any comments on that? How does it help you as a writer?
Definitely. I think you, as you all said, you made this group because you didn't have this kind of buddies where you could write and talk about it with others. And this is something that definitely helps. It helped me a lot too. Even if it doesn't help you directly, like where, but like just to see that other people are doing the same thing and it's something worth doing. And at the same time, I don't know, like people are different. So for me, I think I'm naturally competitive. So when I see other people doing it, I think, oh, I have to do it too. Like I have to do it better than them, or I have to try to do it like, without that pressure. But still, I learn from them just by seeing them. So in that way, it's good for me too. But at the same time, it's good for me to be a part of a group where you can feedback each other and just have the feeling that your goal is not in vain, that there are other people who are trying to do stuff too. And there's a reason why some places become hubs for things. Like, there's a place where writers go, or there's a place where actors go. It's because they see each other doing it, and there's like an eco system which builds around that. And of course, it's super competitive, but it also works because if you're just far away from that, then you're not as motivated. So it has played a big role in my writing life too.
That was nicely put. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. Um, you have been a published author for so long now, and now that your work is out there, and we all know that it's very dicey how the audience would handle it. And recently, you have been a lot active on the social media. You have been actively, we can say, marketing the book,
Yeah.
which is, I'm sure, a little bit difficult for a writer to do because creativity is the most important thing for a writer. So,
Mhm.
how do you handle this whole thing, dealing with the audience, dealing with their criticism? It's not coming from a very, respectable or a perfect place like a critique or something, a board of something, just
Mhm.
from random people. So, how do you deal with it? Have you had any instances, or do you have any suggestions for the upcoming writers how to deal with the marketing part as well as the criticism from the audience?
I mean, I would say just don't think about it. Like, I know it's easy to say, but it's also like I was never the kind of person who, if they don't like something on Instagram, I go and comment on it. Like, I just don't care. I like scroll past it or something. So I never focus on like this, like, I have to tell them how I don't like it, like, I have other things to do. So, the same way, of course, like, if there's constructive criticism, I'm very happy to take that. And of course, I should get that. And I want that too. And, from editors, from people who write, who read, and who want to tell you, like, this is something that didn't work for me, this is something that worked, blah, blah, blah. That's great. All of that is great. which mostly I know too. Like I already know, where I should have, changed this or that. And the fact that people tell me means that my hunch was right, that this is something that, I could have done better or differently. And if you're in a feedback group, there they say the same thing. So if one person says this doesn't work, you don't have to always agree with it. But if everyone points out the same thing and says, this is something which didn't work for your story, maybe there's something to it, because a lot of them felt the same way. So a lot of the things I already know, and when people tell me like this is something you should have done like this or that, I feel okay that this was right.
Hmm.
But if there are people just kind of like saying like, okay, this was bad, this was bad, then I'm like, okay, like it's their right to like not like something, right? And I don't think I think about it, but at the same time, I also don't think too much about positive things too. Like, when people write like, oh, this was the best book or this was that or this, it's great. I like it a lot. Okay, great. Everyone likes to be appreciated, but I try not to like let it get to my head or just think too much about it. So the same way, everyone I know will have their own opinions about books that they read, and like I, if you come out with a book, by that time you have been turned down by hundreds of editors. You think someone else can hurt you by saying something about some book, or like my book, by saying I didn't like your book. Like, wow, great. Like there are so many,
Yeah.
like I have already been turned down so much that this is the least hurtful thing that you can say to me.
Oh my God. Yeah. So true. So true. I think you have successfully separated yourself as a writer from this whole marketing business where you have to be present for your book as well, which is brilliant to know. And thank you for sharing that too. So I think we are coming to an end of our beautiful session, and we have a little bit of fun rapid fire round for you.
Cool.
Yeah. So we will start the questions, and you have to answer as quickly as you can. Okay, at the top
Okay.
of your head.
I'll try
Okay,
my
a
best.
book that you would highly recommend to all your readers.
The Book Thief.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. I love it too.
It's a great book, yeah.
Yeah. Author who inspired you or your writing the most.
J.K. Rowling. I mean, that's where
Oh,
it all started.
now we want you in the group. Please join us.
For sure.
A fictional character that intrigues you, fascinates you.
I mean, I don't know if she's fictional, but I would say Draupadi in Palace of Illusions was done really well. It
Yeah.
was given a new life in that book.
And now, what is your favorite Indian dessert?
Figni.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't name any Bengali sweet. Um,
Please,
but for
it's
sure
fine.
it would be that one for me since it's not too sweet. Like you can make it not too
Yeah,
sweet.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's
I
still
I think Delhi has better firnis than Kolkata does at this point,
good.
so that is justified. We agree.
Thanks.
It has been so nice to have you and converse with you. We look forward to more such conversations, and more than the book and the details of it, how you wrote it and your experience and how you shared it with us, that was more inspiring. And I think it will motivate us to go on further. And needless to say, we really lack the kind of feminine inspiration in this industry as far as I have seen so far. So this has been a really, changing viewpoint of view for all of us, the book itself and you and talking to you. So thank you so much for joining us and giving us your time and your expertise. We will now be opening the session to the audience for questions. I'm sure there is a lot. They have been waiting for a long time. Are we taking the questions first? Are there questions in the chat boxes, Pratyuk? Or I think I can't see many.
No questions in the chat box, But if there are any
Okay.
questions from the audience, you can just
So
unmute
yeah,
yours. Yeah.
yeah. We can like take you can raise your hands and we can take one by one, right? Hi guys, are we audible? We are opening the session with the audience now. Yeah, Akansha, you can unmute yourself and switch on the video as well if you want to.
Akshata.
Akshata. Yeah, Akshata.
Akshata? Okay, sorry.
Hi,
Akansha left?
good
Okay, yeah, Akshata.
evening, Srishti. Good evening, Literary Adda. I was so excited to join, for today's Literary Adda meet. So actually, I am a introvert who doesn't switch on her video, but I was so excited to meet Srishti in the very beginning of the session. Switched on the video and I was dying to talk to you, Srishti.
I'm so
Yeah,
happy to
and
see you.
apologies for that. I didn't know I had to switch off the video.
That's okay,
Very
that's fine.
happy to have you here. Thanks.
Yeah, and I recently read Lallan Sweets, and it's a lovely, lovely book. And I got it in a book swap. We had a book swap, and one of my friend gave it to me, and I just sat and read the book. It was so delightful, and I'm really thankful to you to bringing this book to life. Thank you so much.
No, I have to say, it's all super nice to hear all the nice things, and I am the most honored to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, and every moment I felt like eating laddu. Each and every page was like eating laddu, and there was never a dull moment actually. And DDLJ reference was amazing. Me being a DDLJ fan as well.
Good choice of film, yes.
Thank you so much. And actually, I had, connected with you so
Yeah.
that I can meet you. And you had told me that, you're having a meet in Delhi. I'm from Bangalore, actually.
Mhm.
So that was, my bad. I could not come to Delhi. So, and this was like, an unexpected meet. And thank you, Literary Adda,
Yes, thanks,
for
for having
organizing
me.
it. Thank you so much.
So glad you joined, Akshata.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining, being with us. I think we can take show mix questions
Yeah.
next.
Hi Srishti. I It has been an honor to just hear from you. I'm in kind of a similar situation where I moved to the United States like 10 years ago, and I feel like I'm living the alternate timeline if your dad weren't so supportive. I The reason as a kid I used to do good in school is because my dad used to tell me that if you do well in your exams, I'll buy you this book. So that was my motivation for trying to study hard. And
Yeah.
then when I thought I would study English literature, my dad said, "Oh, you're good at maths. You should do maths." So I ended up studying computer science. I came here, did my PhD, and now I feel like I have agency. I can do what I want to do. So I have been trying to write, and I have written a bunch of short stories and things. Although I'm intimidated by the idea of trying to write a novel, because it seems like it's too long. Do I even have it in me? I Maybe I have it listening to you speak. It seems like the first one you write is the hardest one,
Yeah.
uh, then it becomes easy. My question was that how do I graduate from writing, short stories, which I feel are more approachable?
Mhm.
I've been to writing workshops, and they say that writing short stories is hard because you have to set everything up, finish everything in such a
Yeah.
short
Mm-hmm.
span. So I was trying to see if you would have any pointers regarding that. And I have a stupid question as well at the end. Your Instagram handle is Death of the Author. How did you come up with that? That's interesting, I think.
Okay. So I'll take the first one first. So I think that writing short fiction or short stories is really good practice for like the big game, which is the novel. Like that's how I did it too. I wrote a bunch of short stories at first when I was still at Edinburgh. And this really gives you the confidence to write a bigger piece because you can see you ended a story. Sometimes you're satisfied with it, sometimes not. I think it's really hard to have a good like plot arc or resolution for a short story since you have so little space. But it is very good practice. Like this is, I think, something, if you're doing it now, you can do it a bit more. And I'm pretty sure that at some point it will give you kind of um like the drive to write a bigger one, or the courage to like feel like, okay, now I can. And even if you write a novel and it doesn't work out, so what? Like you can just, always get back from it. Like, okay, you would have spent some time on it, but this is time well spent. So, if you feel like, okay, it's a lot of investment and effort, if your ultimate goal is to be an author of novels, then this is that time you have to put in. And maybe the first one won't work out, maybe a few you won't finish. Like I told you about the first book that I finished, but when I was 13 and then 15, I started to write books as a kid where I wrote 80, 90 pages and I never went on with it. So there is that part too. This is the part that people don't see that you do. And I think it is for everyone, not just people who write books, but for athletes, for actors. There is all that unseen effort which goes in. And I would say if you're doing already short stories, that's good. Keep on doing that. And I'm pretty sure that you will find a way to tip over and think about the long story in that way. And in some ways it will give you freedom because you will have so much more space to characterize. But of course it's a longer project, you have to stick to the same thing over maybe years. And you even start to forget what you wrote back then. So you have to go back to it and think. And the trick to doing it is just to do it. So, take that pressure off yourself where you think that if I start to write this book, I have to finish it. Yeah, you should, but if it doesn't, it's fine. You can just start on a new one. That is something I would say you can do. And why I'm death of the authorist. It was like many years ago. I was studying literature, and there's this theory by Ronald Barthes is, that once you're done with the book is in the hands of the reader. Like, what you intended by it or what you meant from it doesn't matter as much as as much as what the reader takes from it. So whatever your interpretations of Lallan Sweets has been always has primacy over what I actually meant by it. So it's not like if I say, oh, that meant this, so that sets the air, like, okay, that's how it's going to be. It's like what you take away from it. So this is like this kind of social literary theory, and I just thought it was cool. And I'm not even sure it's that cool now to have it as my username, but yeah, I just stuck to
I
it.
think it's cool. It's really
Oh,
cool.
thanks.
Yeah, I
But I
think
have
it's cool
a
too. I
follow-up
mean,
question
talking to
regarding,
you.
sorry.
No, no, I was just saying, agreeing with it. Like, it's cool too. I think it's cool too. Yeah,
Um,
continue, Shamik. Sorry.
So two things, as you were answering, I thought of those. You said that you would maybe tend to forget details from when you started writing your novel. Do you have notes or things when you start writing a novel and you refer back to them?
Yeah, sure. I have lots of notes, lots and
Okay.
lots of notes. And these notes have only gone bigger. Like now, I was working on my third book. I have like 3 notebooks full of just notes. And it works for me because I can never remember what to say or like what to write or what I had thought of. So I need those notes. Some people maybe don't need it as much. Um, Depends what kind of person you are, but I think it's always helpful to make those notes because you can always look back on it.
That's good to know because I think with short stories, maybe you can fit all of that into your mind, and you don't really need to keep notes, but it's good to know
Yeah,
that that's an established practice too for
yeah,
novelists.
yeah, for sure.
The other thing I wanted to ask is, since you have done English degrees, and I had been thinking of maybe doing an MFA,
Hmm.
uh, how useful do you think that would be in terms of writing, in terms of, getting exposed to ideas? Like, what kind of usefulness would it have when it
Hmm.
comes to my writing?
I think like any other masters, it gives you what you take from it. So, lots of people, they would invest a lot of like time and if you do an MFA, which is a very like very American thing, and has worked out for lots of people. You would get access to a lot of contacts, which would be harder on your own. You would be a part of a writing group, who will feedback each other. And as we talked about community, you will be a part of a community where other people are doing, the same thing as you. And in fact, it will be a very competitive one. I know these American ones are super kind of people are intense there. So, if that is a kind of environment where you think you will thrive, you should go for it. And of course, if you can afford it or if you can like get through with it. But I also don't think that without, like, it's not like you can't write without it. You can
Mm.
definitely like do all the things you can without it. So it's like any other course. Like, you could self teach yourself like Java or something else by going on YouTube or learning from here or there, or you could do a course where they tell you like this is how to do it and so on. So depends on your personal circumstances. If you're able to have the time and resources to spend on this, then I think it can be useful if you also involve yourself in it. Um, and if you're really ambitious towards this, then yes, it will help you. On the other hand, if you don't have the means for it, there are still so many things like this group. This group is, I would say, if you keep going on, this would be equivalent to an MFA group at some point, because you need this back and forth from people who read, and that is valuable, and that you can get from other sources too.
Thank you for that insight. I have often found that it's very hard to make people read what you write. They say
Yeah,
that they will read it,
yeah, they
that
never read
months
it.
have gone by and they have not, and you just don't really want to badger them that much. But yeah, this is my first time coming to this group, and I didn't even know about this group if you hadn't posted on Instagram about you coming on here today. So I definitely want to stick around and invite me to the other meetings or whatever you have going on. I have read um, uh, the Traveling Cat Chronicles. I think I read it last year. So I think I can still discuss. That's the
Yeah,
book, right?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Maybe you
Thanks
can
to
join for the
people.
discussion. It will be nice. Like it will be a whole jogging the memory kind of a thing for you.
I will definitely
Yeah.
read a summary or maybe
Yeah.
read the
Yeah.
end of the book before coming to the discussion,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay. So Shomik, thank you for your questions. They were very good, and they were like a lot of enlightening things that we did not put through in the discussion. I think we will have to move to the other questions. There are two more people. Uma, uh, we will take you now.
Yeah, hi. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, you are.
Uma, thanks so much for all the nice things you wrote in the chat. I was planning to answer you. Thanks for being here and really happy.
No, I should be the one thanking you because first of all, I think Manya is in the meeting.
Yes,
I
they
really
are
want to
both
thank
here
both
and
of
they've done
you.
a great job of
Yeah.
organizing all this. Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, I actually got an email from Manya, and that is the journey from how I know you actually. So
Yeah.
thank you to both of you for choosing me to read and review your books, and absolutely head in love with Rana and Nikku. Big major crushes. I mean, I cannot even emphasize any
That's
more than I
great.
can. Absolutely. My question was coming back to the notes. So how do you use these notes? Is it to get back to something that you want to improve, or you're not able to write further about that particular element, may it be a character or a scene? So do you use those notes to improve on stuff, or do you get back, or how do you overall,
Mhm.
how does it help you?
So sometimes I use the notes to refer to what I had planned. So what I do is like I have a page for every character. So not one page, there could be more, but I have one section, then another. So I have one for every character, and I have different sections for different themes, for different events, for different chapters. And then I feel like the very act of writing it out already commits it to my memory. So, if I say chapter 2 should have this and this and this and this, I need to write it down, but I don't need to read it again that much. And then I can write out the whole chapter 2. And sometimes, yes, sure, when you're doing like historical research, then what I do is like I just try to do the research first and make the notes. And then when I write, I go back to the notes and see what elements of that I can use in what I write. And I try to plan it out like with flow charts, or like this happens and that, then this, then that. And sometimes like when your thoughts are kind of stuck, like when you have a block, then it helps to write it down and think like what are the several possibilities that can be for, let's say, the ending, and then choose the one which seems the best. So I write it down as a form of like recollecting my thoughts, or like sorting through my thoughts, and at the same time to go back to it too sometimes when I'm out of ideas.
All right, thank you so much. That really helps. I'm going to try that.
I'm glad.
Thank you for so much for the question, Uma. Next we have Bhavya. Bhavya, you can ask the question now.
Good evening, everybody. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, you are.
Oh, just a second.
Sure.
I can see there's a lot of
First of all, thank you so much, Srishti, for Lallan Sweets. I love the book, the plot, the characters, everything. But my favorite character is Vijay Mathur. I love the character. He is so entertaining. So I just want to ask how you came up with the idea to add a character like him. Like it's not a very rare character. So हम मिल सकते हैं मतलब like real life में भी. So how you came up with an idea कि हमें इस time पे इसको add करना चाहिए उस character को.
Okay, thanks so much. And very interesting that you chose him as a favorite character. I would say he's one of those who just came to my mind like fully formed. And I think he's an exaggeration of like this person who believes that they can get a girl because they have something, money, land, or whatever. And he's just kind of, let's say, the foil, like a kind of like a way to show that Niku and Tara had good times, so they made fun of him, or like they had this childhood when he was there, and now they somehow like bump into him again. So he's like a kind of like vehicle to show that. And at the same time, once I started to ride him, like he was just, I didn't have to think, it just came to me. And he was just like this kind of over the top exaggeration of like how something would be. So for me, when I started to write it, I laughed so like I had so much fun writing him that I just had to bring him back at the end, and just like make him sound really silly and like foolish and stuff. So he was like a kind of a, let's say, like a contrast to like the sensible Niku, and like a in this kind of way. But he was just quite organic. So I don't know anyone like that, but I know people could be like that in a way, maybe not to that extent, but yes, ऐसे भी लोग
Yeah.
हैं. If they can still write in the ads, in newspapers, we want a fair girl who's like this and this and this. So it's not hard to imagine that there's a guy who says, I have 12 cows, so don't you want to be with me? Yeah.
I love the proposal at the end. It was very unexpected for me as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a way for me to introduce just some humor into this like ending, and he was just a very
Yeah.
funny character for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And so many cool questions from the audience. I don't know if we should close this or we should continue, but we are running out of time, I guess. So I will hand it over to Pratyu for the closing now. And I would just like to thank you one more time, Srishti, for thinking of us. And Manya, thank you so much for reaching out to us. I mean, we do love Srishti and the world she has created, but Manya, you are the one who took us to that path, right?
Both of them,
So,
Anya and
mm,
Aditi,
Aditi, right?
are helping me out with this. And at some point, I think you asked me like, oh, how are you doing all the marketing and stuff? And I was like, look, I'll handle
Yeah,
this.
obviously.
And
Amazing, amazing team of women. We love it.
yeah.
Thank you so much for thinking of us and reaching out to us. It was such a pleasure. Now, Prati, I will hand it over to you for the closing.
Yeah, so I'll just repeat, echo, what she said. So thank you, Manya, Aditi, Shrishti, and all the audience who, decided to join us today, who decided to read with us in October, Lallan Sweets. It was a really nice read along, and there were very intense discussions also. And we love when it happens, when someone reads a book and everybody has some sort of different opinion, and the discussions always go deeper, much deeper than what we
Then what
uh,
I thought, yes.
yeah, because a lot of the times we just read books and we're done with it, right? So
Yeah.
that's not what we wanted to do in our community. We just wanted to take some time to think about the book, to think about the writer and how, all the characters and the plots are being done. So that's just something we are trying to do here in Literary Adda. So I noticed that a lot of you were interested in joining our book club, and like it's not like you have to mandatorily read something that we're all reading, but yeah, if you want to be a part of this community, you can just reach out to us on Instagram and we can share the joining link with you. And also, before that, before we close it, we have shared all the links to Srishti's books, both Once Upon a Curfew and Lallan Sweets, the Amazon links, the Flipkart links, as well as if you want to add them to your Goodreads, we have added all of them. And we will add them in the description box of this video, which will go on YouTube as well. So you can get your hands on her books and read them, reach out to her, and fangirl, fanboy about it everywhere.
And spread the word.
Spread the word.
Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
perspective we get, and it has been amazing because we can already see the audience question. It was like so much fun. So, yeah,
Thank you so much, guys. It was a pleasure to be here, and thank you for spending your Sunday evening with us talking about these books and writing. And I hope that you have a great run with the book club and keep reading as a writer. That's the best thing to do.
Thank you so much.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you, all of you. Nice.
Bye.
Okay, bye.